Hey guys, welcome to the first ever official YouTube channel. My name is Morgan, and today I would like to discuss with you one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. This movie in particular was given to me by a coworker who told me that the movie was so bad that she couldn't even finish watching it. And that movie is a 2004 horror movie called Dead and Breakfast. And without further ado, let's get into the movie. So the movie begins with a group of friends: Johnny, Kate, Christian, Sarah, and David, and Melody, driving together on their way to another friend's wedding. The movie starts off pretty simple: group of friends doing a road trip type thing, drinking, doing drugs, normal things you would do on a road trip. And right off the bat, we get the most introduction into Johnny, who is the most creepiest character out of the entire friend group, as you learn when the group discovers that they are lost. They find out that Johnny, the driver, has been using roadkill as his directions on how to get them to their destination.
Let me see. All right, 3 squirrels, 1 coyote, a rabbit, maybe in parenthesis, and 1.5 unknown. What the fuck is this?
A roadkill.
Can I have that back, please?
1.5 unknown. Oh, that must be pretty, huh?
He's a really scary character, a very shady, unsettling individual. Friends finally opt to find a bed and breakfast to spend the night in. They pull into the first town that they see and immediately stop at a gas station where we are introduced to two, I guess the right wording would be interesting characters. Meet my personal favorite character, the narrator of the movie, Randall Keith Randall, who, unlike most narrators, he doesn't just tell the story. Oh no. He sings it. Every narration he gives in this movie, he sings. With a guitar. And his own band to top it off. He's that kind of narrator. He's that cool. And the second character we meet is the hero of the movie. We never actually learn his name. They never ever say it in the movie whatsoever. He's always referred to as the Drifter. And that's sad. He's the hero of this story. He deserves a proper title. So we're gonna call him Guy. So while at the gas station, Christian runs into Guy, and they have a pretty weird exchange.
Oh, mistake. Sorry. My fault. Shit. Did I do that? Sorry. Here you go.
Thanks. It's cool, I don't light them.
You don't light them? What do you mean?
It's really none of your business, is it?
While talking with Randall Keith Randall, Sarah learns about the bed and breakfast, and so after the friends gather their things at the gas station, they head over there, where we meet Diedrich Bader, who you might recognize as he's as of now a very popular and successful actor. Wherein here in this movie he plays the bed and breakfast chef, who has no importance to the story and barely in it anyway. So the friends get situated in the bed and breakfast. They meet the owner. They introduce themselves, have a back and forth, get permission to stay there for the night. Eventually, the chef comes out with dinner for them, and this is where you find out that all the characters are all assholes. And knowing that this is a horror movie, from this display of how they treat the chef, you don't really care who lives or dies in the end, because you know that they're all terrible people. Except for one character, Melody. But she's just as weird as the rest of them, because she has these hidden talents that happen out of the movie for no reason. Like in this scene where she comes out speaking perfect French to the chef to try and quell some of the tension between her and him and her friends.
Excuse me. Ennui, is it?
Ouais.
Je ne veux pas vous vexer, mais depuis quand nous sommes arrivés de vous trouver? Et si je peux?
So eventually, David pisses the chef off by making him drop the tray of the food that he had prepared for the group. And Sarah comes in and suggests that they all turn in for the night, because they've already done enough damage to piss off the people who graciously let them spend the night. And at the night, that's when we finally get the climax of the story, because all the terrible things start to happen. Whilst the characters are turning in for the night, we get a shot of somebody mysteriously lurking outside, spying on them. And we get a clip pretty much spoiling who that someone is as they drop a unlit cigarette into the grass, therefore allowing us to use our context clues and observational skills to put together that that is in fact a guy watching them from outside. Now, as I said previously, that guy is the hero of this story, so you're probably wondering why he's out there stalking a group of people he doesn't know. We're gonna get to that. That is kind of gonna become important, kind of not. He has good. He's got good. What's the word I'm looking for? He's got good intentions, just a really bad execution, and we'll get to that bridge when we come to it. And right after the scene with Guy dropping the cigarette in the lawn, we get one of the most bizarre scenes I think I've ever seen, with one of the first plot twists. Not plot twists, but plot problems with the movie itself. We get a shot of David waking up from sleeping in the middle of the night to what you would assume is him hearing some strange person walking around the house, as the scene that phases out from him is to somebody walking up the stairs. But they have no correlation. David doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't actually hear that person break in and walk around the house. He just wakes up and just fucks off to the kitchen for whatever reason. And then we get another scene with the first plot point that makes no sense in the movie. One of the first. I mean, it's a terrible movie, so there's gonna be many. But we get David's girlfriend, Kate, who's sleeping in the bed and wakes up when she realizes that David's not in the bed with her, which kind of confuses me, because earlier in the movie, right before all the characters turn in for the night, Kate says that they should leave David sleeping in the chair because he's so drunk that he wouldn't be able to get up and walk anyway.
Leave him. He's so drunk he won't be able to get it up anyway.
Which makes me wonder why she was expecting him to be in the bed in the first place when she knew that he wasn't going to be there because he was too drunk to get in the bed, and why she was concerned that he wasn't in there when she knew that he was never in there in the first place. I mean, I'm just saying, that's a really, really weird point to put in the movie. The two scenes, they're not adding up, you know? Goes to find David in the kitchen, where we get the first interesting thing to happen in this movie. We're 15 minutes in, and finally something of actual interest happens. Most unfunny, worst part of the whole movie, an entire overused, way too long clip of David slipping in the chef's blood. It's very unnecessary, and I don't know why they decided to put this in as, I would assume, a comedic effect, but it's not funny. It's just badly and weirdly placed in the movie. I don't know why. Why it's even in there.
Hey, baby. What?
Shit.
shit. Oh my God.
And whilst Kate, David, and Christian are staring and gawking at the corpse of the chef, they hear Sarah scream from upstairs, and they immediately go and investigate to find that the owner of the bed and breakfast, Mr. Wise, is upstairs slowly dying from a heart attack. Miraculously, the same exact time, moments after the chef died, was brutally murdered. And we get another funny shot of Christian attempting to give Mr. Wise CPR, only to back out as he, and I quote, isn't equipped for this. And they go to try and call the police or some help service, only to realize that both the phone lines in the house are dead.
Okay, here we go. All right. Through this. Hello? Phone. Call 911. Call 911.
They then come to the decision that somebody has to drive into town to get help. And David, who is, I guess, suffering from some kind of shock, decides that he's the one that is going to go into town. But he doesn't use the RV that they drove in on. He decides to steal, I'm not sure whose it is, if it's Mr. Wise's or the chef's motorcycle, when he doesn't know how to ride, as Kate is going to state.
All right, I'm gonna take the bike outside and I'm gonna go get some help, all right?
Since when do you know how to ride a motorcycle?
What?
You don't know how to ride a motorcycle.
And we get another drawn out and unfunny clip of David trying to learn how to ride a motorcycle so that he can drive into town and get help, which I feel like in the actual events of time, the time it took him to learn how to ride a motorcycle and get into town, Mr. Wise was dead by then. I'm pretty sure he died in that scene with Sarah anyway, so it was kind of a waste to go into town and to let somebody who had no idea how to drive a motorcycle get on one and spend like a good 10 minutes trying to learn how to ride one when somebody's life was on the line.
Yeah, I'll go. No, stay here. Everybody stay here. Just be calm, relax. I have everything under control. I love you, baby. I love you. I'm good. All right. I'll give you a second.
And after that, we then transition into the first narrated song by Randall Keith Randall. I would honestly, because he's my favorite character out of the whole movie, I would love to play all of his songs for the narrations of the movie, but for time's sake, I'm only going to play a couple of them. If you're interested, I suggest watching this movie if you're interested in hearing all of the amazing narrations that Randall Keith Randall make in this movie. So after Randall Keith Randall's song, it transitions back to the next morning, I guess after David got help, went to the sheriff's office, and they're having a conversation with the sheriff about the events of what happened between both the corpse of the chef and the corpse of Mr. Wise. And here's where we learn that the sheriff of this town is an incompetent imbecile of a man who, I don't even know how he got the job of being the town sheriff, because he clearly is unqualified for it. As you see in this scene where he basically doesn't believe their innocence with the death of Mr. Wise, not even the chef who was murdered in the kitchen. He doesn't believe that Mr. Wise died of a heart attack.
So that's your story, huh?
Sheriff, it's not a story, it's what happened.
me tell you something, boy. Whenever I show up on a scene like this, there's always three sides to the story. You got your victim side, the witness's side.
Yeah, and the truth. We got it, Columbo.
He's over there talking to these kids like, well, it's sure is suspicious that you just happened to be going to the bathroom when Mr. Wise had his heart attack. And even more suspicious that you all happened to be in the building the same exact night that this man died of a heart attack. You don't find that all suspicious at all. You see, that's the kind of lies that I don't like in this town here. Now I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna hold you all for questioning and stuff like that. Once I figure out who murdered the chef here in this kitchen, once I find that son of a bitch, you bet your ass I'm coming back here and asking you questions because your alibis don't match up. A man died of a heart attack. You kids seriously hear yourselves? That shit just don't make no sense. After the sheriff leaves, everyone's pretty shaken up that they're all being held as material witnesses and therefore are not allowed to leave the town. And they all go their separate ways to, I guess, cope with the fact that they are material witnesses to a crime. Potentially 2 crimes if we're still on the fact that the sheriff wants to hold them as murderers for a man who died of a heart attack. And then we get yet another scene of Melody pulling some mysterious hidden talent out of her ass when she runs into the groundskeeper, or I guess the gardener, for a bed and breakfast, because I didn't know they had those for bed and breakfasts, but I now do, and she pulls out perfect sign language to communicate with this man. Which, might I add, also doesn't seem like the gardener is deaf at all, as weirdly there's like a fly buzzing around. That you don't actually see in the scene, which might just be a fail of whoever made the movie. I mean, obviously you're not gonna hire a fly to be a fly. You're not to be able to show it. I don't know if that was the fail that there wasn't actually able to get an actual fly to be in the scene. It just makes it sound like the guy can actually hear as he hears the fly buzzing, which, again, this has no point to the movie whatsoever, as we hardly ever see the gardener again, and none of Melody's talents of speaking fluent French or knowing sign language are ever mentioned again. They have no purpose of being in there whatsoever. So then the deputy comes back to tell the group that they have found somebody and they are now in custody. You'll never guess who that guy is. If you guessed Guy, you would be correct. They found Guy lurking around on the property and brought him in for questioning. So while the deputy is talking about Guy, who they now have in custody, Christian chimes in and tells the deputy about the little run-in they had at the gas station that night. And the deputy says that Christian and the rest of them should come in to the sheriff's office to talk with Guy about why he was stalking them that night. And again, while talking with the deputy, we get one of the most beautifully written lines in a script for a movie that I have ever seen.
See, y'all are still material witnesses, and this investigation is still under investigation.
Of a line. So the group go to the sheriff's office, and they split up those who are going to go and talk to the sheriff about with Guy. So Christian and Sarah decide they're the ones that are going to go and talk to the sheriff, while everyone else goes down to the hoedown down the street to drink and have fun. And while they're talking with the sheriff once again proves to be an incompetent fool when he says this.
So Enos tells me y'all had some kind of run-in with my suspect.
Well, I don't know if you'd characterize it as a run-in. I saw the guy at the gas station. He asked me for a cigarette, so I gave him one. That's it.
Like this one?
No.
Oh.
So while Sarah and Christian are talking with the sheriff and Guy explains that there is a spiritual-like box in Mr. Wise's room at the bed and breakfast, and under no circumstances can anyone open it, for reasons that Guy doesn't explain quite yet. He will later on in the movie, but for whatever reason in this moment he decides that it's not any information of value that they, should know, and he just leaves, and as they're leaving he just gives them the most ominous warning ever, with no context whatsoever.
Do not touch that box.
Cutting back to the bed and breakfast, as Johnny is the only one who's still there. They all seem to have forgotten and left him behind. I mean, it makes sense. The guy has some serial killer tendencies. He counts roadkill. I'd leave you behind if you did that too. So anyway, he gets locked outside of the bed and breakfast and picks up a ladder to climb up onto the second floor to crawl through an open window, which comes to the second plot hole in the movie. As we saw earlier when the deputy was talking to them outside of the bed and breakfast, Kate comes through an open window to scream at him about missing the wedding. We see that there is an open window. And right after that scene, she walks out the door and all of them go with the deputy back to the sheriff's office to talk with him and go to the hoedown and whatnot. So we know that there's an open window on the first floor that was left open. Why didn't Johnny just go through that? Why did he have to go through the labor of picking up a ladder, propping it up, climbing up of it, to go up to the second floor of a building, to climb through a window? I mean, I understand the point, as you'll understand when he climbs through the window, he ultimately knocks over the box that Guy warned not to open. He opens it, and then Johnny gets possessed by the spirit inhabiting the box. So yes, like those weird pictures depicted in the scene, Johnny is now possessed and is about to go on a rampage through the town. So Sarah and Christian, using their super smart brain power and the weird detective skills that Sarah somehow has, Sarah puts two and two together that the box that Guy is referring to is the same one inside Mr. Wise's house, and she wants to learn more about it. But instead of asking Guy these questions, because he apparently knows all about it, she decides to go to the town library to do research on Mr. Wise. Now, I don't know too much about what kind of books libraries hold, as I've never worked in one, but I don't really think that they would have information on the residents. So then it cuts back to Johnny, now newly possessed, walking around all hunched over and foaming at the mouth and all that, because apparently that's what happens when you're possessed. And the first thing that Johnny does is he immediately murders the gardener to some heavy metal music. So now back at the library, Sarah and Christian are talking to the librarian, who weirdly enough knows Mr. Wise's entire backstory as it's written in the books in the library for some weird reason. She also recounts some shady things that Mr. Wise has done that she spied on him to learn. She didn't really spy. In the story, she recounted how she was biking home through the cemetery, as you do, and she came across Mr. Wise and some Asian man trying to do some black magic on Mr. Wise's infant baby, who unfortunately died. Which brings me to the question, as she says that the spirit of the baby is possibly what is inside the box, does that mean that now Johnny is possessed by an infant child? And that doesn't make sense to me why the first thing an infant child would do, now that it has control over an adult's body, isn't to do baby things. It's to go on a murder spree. Hi, editing me here. I just wanted to cut in real quick and say the joke that I thought of while editing this, which is this baby is the true conscious baby. What kind of baby did Mr. Wise have? So after talking with the librarian, Sarah and Christian go back to the sheriff's office to finally talk to Guy about the box and what happens if you do, in fact, open it. So Johnny shows up at the hoedown where David, Kate, and Melody are hanging out and starts recruiting more people to join his group of the possessed. Because apparently whenever you put any bodily remains inside the box, whoever the remains belong to is now possessed. As we see when Johnny rips some of the hair off of the deputy, puts it in the box, and now the deputy is possessed, and then immediately goes and shoots the bartender, who I think weirdly liked it. So the hoedown turns into mass chaos as the deputy starts shooting everyone, and Johnny goes around turning as many people as he can into possessed like drones, and anybody who doesn't become possessed is murdered. David, Kate, and Melody are fighting the newly possessed, fighting for their lives in the hoedown. And we get some amazing acting from some of the extras who are becoming possessed. So the sheriff, Sarah, and Christian show up to the hoedown, unaware of the mass hysteria that's currently going on there, and we get, yet again, another example of the sheriff being a complete and utter imbecile when they immediately show up and the sheriff immediately loses his gun and is, while fighting off some of the possessed, tells Christian and Sarah that they should leave because the survivors aren't worth saving and they're not his friends.
What about our friends? They ain't my friends.
So Christian, ignoring the sheriff's pleas to leave and forget all the people who are fighting for their lives against the possessed, go in to help save David, Kate, and Melody, who are stuck in the tangle and tussle of the possessed. Which, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Christian should have listened to the sheriff, because David comes out of nowhere and decapitates Christian. So the sheriff, Kate, Melody, David, and Sarah escape the hoedown, get in the sheriff's truck, and drive to the bed and breakfast, where on the way, David has a little of a mental breakdown. Which rightfully so, I feel anybody in this situation would.
What? I don't know. He, Johnny, whoever the fuck that was, he walked in with the guy with the pruning shears and the chick with the foaming mouth, and they just started fucking everyone up. And then the people that got fucked up, they started getting up off the floor, and then they started fucking everyone else.
As the sheriff is driving, they pass through, I guess, the main part of town where the sheriff's office is, and somehow, Guy gets out of his cell and runs right in the middle of the street and immediately gets hit by the sheriff, who, might I add, does not care that he just ran over a person with his car.
How'd you get out of your cage, boy?
He does not care, and you would think the sheriff, who is there to protect people, would care that he just hit somebody with his car, but he doesn't even go check to see if Guy's okay. Just picks him up, chucks him in the back of the truck, and keeps going. So they finally make it back to the bed and breakfast and are about to get in the RV when they remember that the sheriff took the keys and gave them to the deputy, who is now possessed, therefore he has the keys still, and they can't get away. So they take shelter in the bed and breakfast and start boarding the place up in preparation for the attack they know is coming, which also leaves me with a question: if in fact these people are possessed by some sort of evil baby, can't they just head out to like the nearest baby store or something and get some baby gates and use that to board up the house? Because I'm pretty sure that would be an accurate protection method against an evil baby that's possessing people. Because if it is a baby, it wouldn't have the same mentality as a baby. It wouldn't know how to open a baby gate. They wouldn't be able to get in. It's smart. That's using their brain. Their brain juice, you know? Who cares about using all this fire and weaponry and using doors to block doors? Because they did that. They did do that in the movie. They used doors to block doors. Buy some baby gates. Sometimes, hell, even some adults can't figure out how to work those. I mean, there's no way those possessed are getting in there if you're using those baby gates. I should have written for this movie. So while they're walking back into the bed and breakfast to take shelter and, like I earlier mentioned, board up the house to protect themselves inside, David, like the idiot that he is, trips on the way up and bashes his head into the staircase outside and bleeds all over it. So they're boarding the house up now, drilling doors into more doors and boarding up the windows and the shutters and pretty much every opening in the house. And we get, yet again, a tiny little montage of the sheriff being useless. So Guy finally wakes up after being run over by a truck, and they immediately start asking questions, and Guy finally answers the questions and explains the purpose of the box and why everyone is now possessed.
Kumantong is a spirit captured from a fetus or a newborn's body, kept in a small wooden box and sealed with this.
Wise then had to trap that spirit inside the box, and then whoever opens the box is now possessed by said spirit. So it is in fact a baby that is possessing everybody, and I would like to bring back the baby gate idea. I really think that that is the saving factor for these people. If they had just invested.
What do you mean, probably?
Probably.
Great dialogue, again.
Zombies. You're talking about zombies.
Not exactly.
No. No, David, you idiot. Have you ever seen a zombie movie, David? Zombies are dead people that have risen from the grave and are flesh-eating monsters that are eating the flesh of human beings who are alive. These possessed people are just using the flesh and remains of people to make others possessed. They're not eating them, and they haven't risen from the grave because none of them are actually dead. So Guy basically tells them that the only way to stop the possessed is to pretty much remove the heads from the bodies. But Guy also recounts that's not going to stop the main possessed person, or the first possessed person, which in this case is Johnny. Guy says that the only way to stop the first possessed, or the main possessed, is to use the person who owns the spirit, or like corral the spirit into the box as a weapon, which would be Mr. Wise. And he basically means that they would have to debone Mr. Wise and turn his bones into like stakes that have to be shot through the heart of the main possessed, and that is the only way in which they can kill him. And that's when they come to the first problem, as Mr. Wise had previously died that night and is now buried in the cemetery miles away from the bed and breakfast. So after their talk with Guy, they finally start looking around the place trying to find any weapons that they could use to defend themselves, and Sarah, who apparently was like an ex-Navy SEAL or in the part of the CIA or some shit like that, just comes out of nowhere knowing how to build a shotgun with scrap. She just knows how to build one out of some scrap metal that she found lying around in the bed and breakfast.
Come here. Hold this. Hold it tight, all right?
So finally, Johnny and his army of possessed finally make it to the bed and breakfast, and the inevitable war between the survivors and the possessed finally commences. So they start using the homemade shotguns that Sarah used and are shooting the heads off of the incoming possessed. And apparently Johnny gets upset by this, that the survivors are winning, because he screams out at David this.
Say, David, did you ever tell Kate that you fucked my cousin?
That is so wrong.
What the hell did he say?
Nothing, baby. He didn't say nothing. These guys possessed, for Christ's sake. So you gonna listen to him?
So while David, Kate, and Sarah are keeping the possessed at bay, Guy, Sheriff, and Melody decide that they're going to be the ones to venture out to the cemetery to exhume Mr. Wise and gather his bones to kill Johnny. Right after Guy, Melody, and Sheriff leave, we get another narration by Randall Keith Randall, and this is going to be a really long scene, as what I want to talk about immediately happens right after Randall finishes his narrating song, because I kid you not, when this part happened, while I was watching this, I literally was like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna let this all play out.
Ah, ventriloquism with Christian's head. Don't shoot, it's me! Ha! Christian's dead. Does Johnny seem scared? Yeah, I doubt it. That shooting of theirs? Hell, he allowed it. And as for the three who snuck out the back, bravery is one thing they sure don't lack. And David's alone inside with Sarah and Kate. So if this was a porno, I would say great. I'd hear moans of pleasure, not frightful cries. Instead, I got $10 that all three died.
We're coming to kill ya, coming to kill ya. We're coming to kill ya, we're coming to kill ya, coming to kill ya. We're coming to kill ya, we're coming to kill ya, coming to kill ya. We're coming to kill ya, we're coming to kill ya. Notice I swim, snowshine whiskey. Drive outside, you can drink some with me.
So after the possessed have their square dancing and musical number, it then cuts to Sheriff, Guy, and Melody, who made it to the cemetery, are walking through, when Sheriff notices in the distance somebody hiding behind a tree and immediately shoots him.
Now.
Son of a bitch! Don't you move! Sheriff? Is that you?
Doc?
Yeah?
Did I get you?
Yeah, you got me.
You possessed, Doc?
What?
You heard me. Are you possessed or not?
No, I ain't possessed. You?
No, I ain't possessed.
What the hell is going on here, Sheriff?
I also would like to point out how the conversation between Doc and Sheriff, how they're both appalled at the accusation that either of them are possessed, and again showing how useless the sheriff is.
Now hold it there, Doc. How can we be sure you ain't possessed? I mean, hell, I just shot you and you're still standing.
Oh, well, you ain't got me but on my shoulder.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
I'm sure if it actually was a possessed person, and that Doc asked that question, it could have gone like, "Hey man, are you possessed?"
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. No guys, it's fine, I trust him. He said no, so I trust what he says. He's definitely not possessed. So cutting back to the bed and breakfast, Johnny realizes that there's a huge pool of blood, that the one that came from David when he tripped on the stairs, sitting on the doorstep. And if you remember from earlier that any bodily fluid that goes in the box, whoever it belongs to, is now also possessed. So Johnny sends some of the possessed out to the steps to collect the blood so that he can possess David. And David, realizing Johnny's play, gets super worried and eventually goes out and just starts beating as many possessed as he can with a hammer before Sarah comes in with her DIY shotgun and brings David back inside. And then Kate, his girlfriend, yells at him for being an idiot, and David is too scared or too manly, I'm not sure which, to mention to either girls that his blood is literally on the doorstep, and at any moment, if Johnny gets his hands on it, he could be possessed as well, and then kill them. He never mentions it, I don't know why he wouldn't. And while the possessed are making a second charge to the doorstep to gather David's blood, the possessed successfully gather David's blood and bring it back to Johnny, who then puts it in the box.
Thanks for the donation to my blood drive, David.
Therefore possessing David, who then immediately murders his girlfriend Kate. So we get some great editing.
It's just gotta be getting freakier in there. Tell me something, did he get any of you? Sucks when you don't know who your friends are, doesn't it?
So David successfully murders Kate, and before he is able to murder Sarah, Sarah shoots him with her DIY shotgun, and then the two break out into a full-on brawl, only for it not to work in David's favor, or Johnny's for that matter, as he's trying to suffocate Sarah with what looks like a shower curtain, even though they're in the kitchen. Sarah successfully grabs hold of the chainsaw that's conveniently sitting there on the floor and stabs it, or like jabs it into the side of David's neck. And as much as I would love to play this scene because it's just really stupid, and they even play jazz music in the background of it for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure YouTube would flag me for it because it is a fairly gory scene. So I'm just gonna tell you about it instead. So Sarah, now the only survivor inside of the bed and breakfast, starts creating more shotguns with the last of the shells that she has to fend off the army of possessed that are still waiting outside to come in and kill her. Back at the cemetery, Guy, Melody, and Sheriff successfully unearth Mr. Wise's body and cremate him just enough so that they can get to the bones, and then they saw the bones into like steaks, pack them up, and are on their way to return back to the bed and breakfast, unaware that the only surviving member there is Sarah, who is currently fending for her life as a horde of the possessed break in. On their way back, Guy, Melody, and Sheriff are walking past the library where they get jumped by a bunch of possessed, and the fighting is drawn on for too long, and eventually the sheriff is murdered. Thank God. I mean, very sad to hear that he was murdered. He will definitely not be missed. But the librarian, who also happens to be associated with the military or something, comes out to save Melody and Guy, and she, strangely enough, is very on point with what's happening in the world, even though she's been in the library the whole time.
Well, you mind telling me what the Sam Hill's going on around here?
I don't think you'd believe me if I told you.
Brand, after what I seen tonight, you could tell me an evil spirit rose up from the dead and decided to possess the entire town, and I'd believe you. Well, any of y'all know how to stop it?
Yeah, but he's got to get to the bed and breakfast right.
And she sends Guy and Melody on their way back to the bed and breakfast, saying that she would love to help, but she is tasked with protecting the books with a gun for some reason. I didn't know that books... I mean, I know books are important. Reading is very important. I didn't know that they were that important that we needed to protect them with guns. Can I just also add, I didn't include it in the video. I don't actually have a scene of this happening. But right after Melody and Guy leave the librarian with the records, she walks over to the sheriff's dead body and takes his badge, and I guess appoints herself as the new sheriff, which I'm all for. I hated the original sheriff, so if the librarian is secretly working with the military or something to protect the books in the town, I'm on board with her being the new sheriff. I'm sure she will do a way better job than he ever did. So Guy and Melody finally make it to the bed and breakfast, and as they're getting out of the car the librarian lent them, they're trying to run into the bed and breakfast when Johnny comes out of nowhere and knocks Guy unconscious, and then has like a one-on-one standoff with Melody, who has a crossbow and the staked bone that she has to use to kill Johnny to end the possession that's going on in the town. And Johnny kind of taunts her for a little bit, saying that she's too nice of a person, that she would never have it in her to kill somebody or anything like that. And then eventually Melody gains the courage to take the bow and put it in the crossbow and then shoot it into Johnny's heart. And then when Johnny's all surprised, she then goes and kicks it through his heart, and he has the most bizarre last words I've ever heard anybody ever say. So Melody did it. She killed Johnny. The possession that has taken over the town is now gone. They rush inside and are just in time to have saved Sarah before she was murdered by the possessed. And that's kind of where the movie ends. We get one more final shot of them burning the box that had the spirit in it before Melody, Guy, and Sarah walk away, get in the RV, and drive off. I would assume out of the town. And that's it. Yeah, that's the 2004 horror movie Dead and Breakfast. I hope you enjoyed my review of the movie. This is, like I said in the beginning of the video, this is the first official YouTube video that I've ever made. So if you liked it and want to see me talk about more terrible movies, or I've been thinking about playing some games and stuff on here, so if you're interested in seeing that, please like and subscribe. That lets me know that I did not just waste an hour of my time making this for no reason. And it's just a generous thing to do in general, you know? Shows you care, or whatnot. I would love to give a big thanks to CL on YouTube, who uploaded the entire movie for me, because finding this movie was nearly impossible. No streaming service had it, even YouTube movies didn't have it. It kind of just seemed like it was like a ghost. It didn't actually exist. So thank you for them for uploading the entirety of the movie for me to watch. Without them, without that upload, there would be no video. That's it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!